Bernie Moreno. I'm going to figure out how to pronounce his name. But first, do you remember where you were when Princess Diana died?
I do. It's interesting because, remember, I was a Mercedes-Benz dealer. So the car that she drove in was a Mercedes-Benz. I happened to be on the Mercedes dealer board, and we spent a ton of time understanding how the accident occurred. Mercedes sent people there to the scene. It was pretty surreal. It was a crazy time.
All right, so first, again, unexpected.
So now let's talk about your run for the United States Senate, sir.
Figure out how to pronounce your name, because we've been talking and congratulating you about winning the Republican primary in Ohio. We encourage everybody out there listening to make sure they go vote for you in Ohio. But from the man himself, how should we be pronouncing your name?
It's Bernie Moreno, unless you speak Spanish. But if you don't speak Spanish, it's just Bernie Moreno. So imagine if Bernie Kosar and Dan Marino got together and adopted a baby.
It is, like I said, like Marino.
Yeah,
Bernie
that's
Moreno.
easy. That's easy for me. I won't mess that up anymore. All right, Buck, you fire away. We got that solved.
So glad we've got it all squared away. First off, tell us what got you into this game, so to speak, in the first place. Why you want to run for Senate? What do you want to do? What's top of the agenda for the great state of Ohio if they elect you, which we certainly hope they will?
Well, as you know, I came from another country. I was born in South America, moved to the U.S. when I was a kid, became a citizen at the first opportunity I could, which is when I turned 18. This country's given me every opportunity in the world to succeed. I've succeeded well beyond my expectations. And I see this country heading off a cliff. I see career politicians doing very little, if nothing, about it. And so either you work and defend your country and do what you can to save it for your kids and grandkids, or you give up. And I'm absolutely never going to give up on America. So it just means that all of us have to lean in more than we probably wanted to. We have to get maybe a little bit more uncomfortable than we like. But we have to do whatever we each individually can do to fight like hell for this country to make sure we leave it better for our kids and grandkids.
I know that you are terrifying people in the Democrat Party, because whenever I see the most unabashed and indefensible attacks, I'm like, this guy or this gal has got people rattled. And the AP put out a story, and as a guy who has a public email address, I can't believe they ran with this. They tried to accuse you of being on a sex website because somebody put your email address in, and they treated it like it was the equivalent of, like a major story to try to rip you to shreds. But it sounds like what I'm starting to get the sense on is people are getting smarter. It sounds like it actually may have ended up helping you because people saw it as such an illegitimate and unfair attack.
Well, it just highlights how disgustingly dishonest the media is. I mean, they knew it was a false story. They put it out there. Journalism is dead in America for the most part. I mean, they have no standards. This is a story that the Daily Mail refused to cover, but the Associated Press did. I mean, that should tell you everything you need to know. When the National Enquirer is embarrassed by a story that the AP puts out, you know that the world's flipped upside down. But the media is all in for Democrats. If you could imagine if I was running as a liberal Democrat, the headlines would be Hispanic immigrant Bernie Moreno with compelling life story, sacrifices everything to save America. They'd have rose petals for me in major cities. Instead, I'm a Trump-backed MAGA extremist that is accused of all kinds of crazy things.
So Bernie, we know that Ohio in recent elections gone solidly red in presidential elections, and our friend J.D. Vance would be the other senator from your great state, assuming that this election goes the way we all hope that it does. I have a feeling that Sherrod Brown, your competitor from the Democrat side, is going to do what a lot of Democrats do in purple or red-ish states, and that is pretend not so much to be a Democrat. What are some of the key differences between you and Brown on these on major issues?
Well, he votes almost 100% of the time with Joe Biden, and the Joe Biden agenda is extremely bad for working class Ohioans. That's why he's going to lose with such big margins in November. You can't be somebody who helps the working class and yet wants unlimited illegal immigration, because that drives wages down, it drives insurance costs up, it drives housing costs up, food prices up. You can't be somebody who's for the working class and shut down coal mines and natural gas operations and drilling rigs and oil refineries, because those are good high-paying union jobs. And also, you can't be somebody who advocates for the working class when you want the very working class to subsidize people to go to college to get humanities and gender studies degrees. So this guy is a total fraud. We're going to expose him that way. He wants everybody driving an electric vehicle. Again, something that hurts working class Americans. He has a terrible track record. My point of view is very simple. After 50 years, it's time to retire the old commie, and that's what we're going to do this fall.
Tough question for you here, and I don't know if you've prepared for it. You live in Ohio. Are you a Browns or a Bengals guy? Are you a Guardians? They're always going to be the Indians to me. Or a Reds guy? Like, how do you make your allegiances known in the state of Ohio?
Well, definitely a Browns fan. It's you have to have some therapy to be a Browns fan, so it's part of the process. But we're gonna win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know if you know that. Nick Chubb is going to be back.
I'll take the other side on that bet. I'll bet you a stake on the Browns. If the Browns, let's say, I'll give you odds. You shoot us a bet here, but I feel very confident the Browns are not going to win the Super Bowl. But I respect the enthusiasm.
Of course, every year that's what you have to say. That's what we say in Cleveland. That's what gets us through the winter. But we're going to have a great season. We had a great season last year. We just had a lot of injuries, but we got a great new coach. The ownership is committed to make certain that we win. So absolutely a diehard Browns fan.
Turning back to politics for a second, I'm just curious.
That's the most important question in Ohio, by the way.
What are you thinking when you see that the House is passing $1 trillion spending bill, and it feels like a lot of people right now on the Republican side of things are frustrated with just business as usual? The spending certainly feels pretty uniparty, Bernie.
Yeah, the challenge is we don't control the levers of government that allow us to really do much different. We don't really negotiate very well. We're afraid of our own shadow. So what we have to do is we have to get the White House back. We have to win the Senate. We'll keep the House. And when we do, we're going to actually do the things that we campaign on. It's very hard for the House because whatever they do that's a conservative budget is going to get nuked in the Senate, and Biden will never sign it. The reality is the Democrats want to take this country off a cliff. They want to keep spending unlimited money. They want to put us all dependent on the government. They want to send our money to foreign governments. They want to send money to countries that hate us, which, by the way, they'll hate us for free. So let's just take the opportunity to let them hate us for free instead of giving them money to hate us. These are the things that we got to do is put America first. Put the interest of the United States citizens above all else. That's what's going to change next year. It's hard to do it when you have divided government, when you have Democrats that are just completely out of their minds.
Clay, that's what I tell communists when they can listen on the radio. I say, you can hate me for free. Just listen to the radio, commies, the more the merrier.
Hey, Bernie, you mentioned your history coming to America 5 years old, building a incredibly successful life for you and your family in Ohio. I think the biggest lie that Democrats tell, and I think your life story will refute it, but I'm curious how you would address it, is that America is a fundamentally racist place because people are dying to get in here legally or illegally every single day. Why do you think they sell that? And why do you think now Hispanic, Black, Asian, white, people, it seems to me, are overwhelmingly rejecting that, and it's making them make the argument even harder?
Well, the worst scenario in that is these white, overeducated liberals that spend too much time in Martha's Vineyard contemplating themselves. This is the greatest country on earth. This country is absolutely the beacon of freedom and liberty for the rest of the world. Those of us who came here by choice instead of being here by birth understand that. We also understand there's no other place to go if this place goes to hell. And that's why we're working so hard to fight for this country. I'll make a prediction for you, aside from the Browns one. This one is maybe a little bit more likely. President Trump and Republicans will win the Hispanic vote this year. I'm the first Hispanic elected statewide in Ohio. I'll be the first South American-born senator. And yet, of course, the person who endorsed me is accused of being a racist who hates Hispanics, which, by the way, so have I. They've said that I'm an immigrant-hating South American. And the reality is maybe I have a couple cousins that are on the bubble, but normally, no, I don't hate South Americans, obviously. And it's just propaganda from the other side. And we're gonna make a lot of inroads in the Black community too, because illegal immigration, inflation, All these things hurt minority communities more than any other community. Look at Martha's Vineyard. A couple dozen illegals showed up in Martha's Vineyard. They were dismissed out of there with military escorts within 24 hours, even though, by the way, 80% of those homes are empty most of the year. It just shows you it's just this white liberal elitism is what's killing this country.
Bernie Moreno, everybody, running for Senate in Ohio, critical race. Bernie, what's your site?
It's BernieMoreno.com. If your listeners could go and chip a few bucks into the website, it makes a big difference. My opponent is funded by the worst people in the country, and they're going to have a lot of money. So whatever you can do would be greatly appreciated.
Bernie Moreno, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Clay, are there any Ohio teams in the March Madness thing right now?
Oh, man, Northwestern is next door in Illinois. The Ohio State did not make it this year. They fired their head coach. You put me on the spot. Ohio University is not. Miami of Ohio is not. Cincinnati is not.
Look at how dialed in this guy is. He doesn't even have his bracket in front of him, and he knows what's what.
Greg just hit me. Dayton is in, and they won last night. So I was running through all the teams. Xavier's not in. I would have eventually gotten to Dayton. Dayton is in, and they won last night.
See, Clay's called out his picks for the 16 games ahead of time. He's called out his picks on Prize Picks, my friends, the #1 fantasy sports app in America that we're both using and having a lot of fun with. Perfect time to download the Prize Picks app right now in the midst of March Madness, and you will see why it has become America's #1 fantasy sports app. It is so easy and so much fun. Even Buck enjoys using it and knows what he's doing. It's great. Prize
and
Picks
even goes
has more
third person. Even goes third person in the read. That's very sports of you.
No choice but to do
Very
it. Lean
athlete
into
of
it.
you.
Sometimes you gotta stick the landing. Prize Picks has more than 3 million active members. The most fun sports app you can play on. Prize Picks app has hundreds and hundreds of players, and every time you play, here's what you do. You pick 2 to 6 players, make one decision. Will they have more or less than the stats shown? It's the best way to get in on the action in more than 30 different states. Clay, when are you going to lay out your next round of picks for everybody?
I just gave them to them this morning. There are the first hour of the show, morning still in the Central Time Zone. They're up on my Twitter feed, and they're up on clayandbuck.com. You still have time to climb on and be a part of our team here on these picks.
All right, there you go. Download the Prize Picks app, open your account, use name Buck or Clay, doesn't matter. Either of our names are great, but use promo code Buck, and for a first deposit match of up to $100, you'll be good to go. Download that Prize Picks app, promo code Buck, get set up, get that deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.